So we took a short break there for a little breather. I had to shake off a little of that real negative energy I was building up. And, you know, kind of the way I see the way things are unfolding right now is this with this whole political scene and everything. It's one of those things that has to happen. I mean, this is one of those things we have to go through to grow as a society, to grow as a culture. You know, despite how ugly everything looks right now, you know, with all the plays being thrown out there on the world scene, you know, the mass killings here, the black kid being clubbed to death by a cop, you know, whatever the latest recording is out there, and then every one of those has, there are some very wild theories on some of them, and then there's some pretty a ton of them have some pretty solid evidence. Now, I've seen both directions. I've seen where there were you know, theories and controversies thrown up there that I just couldn't see. You know, it's like, okay, you guys are really reaching, and eventually somebody online calls them out too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. They'll make a video and point out all of this person's mistakes, and while someone else made a video to point out all someone else's mistakes and all the evidence that was in the video. You know, the partially recorded shooting. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't see anything. You have a soundtrack with it, and then people running. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Just like, remember that reporter shooting?
Oh my gosh.
The guy was wearing the body cam, right?
Yeah.
It was like it looked like a first-person shooter game.
It did.
Right?
It looked exactly like that.
I mean, it did exactly like it.
And you could pick that video apart. I mean, from the first time you saw it, you could pick the video apart.
He walks up to, he's got a gun pointed out in front of him, and he's 2 feet away from these people, and they don't notice him, right? It take them 5 seconds before they even notice he's standing there 2 feet from them with a gun in their face, and they're
ridiculous.
Come on, and to this day, the media puts that out as truth, as a real travesty against a reporter, right? Just how dare, right? She killed, blah. Come on. Come on, if you guys are eating this kind of stuff up and believing it, there's just a little bit of research. That's all it takes. Just a little bit of research. And, you know, don't believe everything that's being put out there. Especially this, oh my God, this election this year. Ha.
Yeah. Well, man, I highly doubt that any of our listeners actually buy into this kind of shit either, you know.
I'm actually finding quite a bit of humor in it. I mean, just because it's so incredible that any sane society would put these two people in that position as what we felt was the best for our country.
Yeah.
And I mean, taking in all aspects, you know, humanitarianism, or the heart to start with, you know, compassion. They have to have compassion for the people they're ruling, right? Or they're leading. Yeah. Well, I said ruling naturally, didn't I?
Naturally, because that's what
it is. Well, you know, if you go back to the bloodline thing, and these all, you know, every politician that reaches that seat has some tie to the bloodline. I mean, they may be out on some twig that's just barely formed on the bottom of the tree.
But they're there.
Right?
Yep.
So it's just,
it is a ruling class, you know. But
yeah.
But like you said, these things have to happen for people to wake up.
Yeah.
You know, if we didn't have the, I think there's so many people that are waking up to how corrupt the whole political situation is. You know, and same with last election. There's a group of people that woke up, but this time it seems like it's so blatant and so in your face that it's. I mean, you have to be completely blind and deaf not to be able to notice that something might be wrong, And there's so many people out there
There's
that
no might be to it.
Yeah, exactly. But
No,
there's so many.
when you see it, and you can't explain it off, you can't, really explain it off. If you answer the obvious questions, if you just try to answer the obvious questions, in any story that's out there, any game that's played out there, if you just try to answer the obvious questions, then it'll make itself apparent. It'll reveal itself to you. And there is truth to seek, and you shall find.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you all things double-edged sword with all of this stuff. Seeking you shall find. If you start looking for corruption and darkness and it can be a deep well too. Just be forewarned for that aspect of it, because if you're aware of it, you can check yourself up. Because you'll feel it when you start digging into things and start, because you're going to hit past that, ultimately lead to a pretty dark place. No matter how syrupy and rosy it was on the outside and around the rim before you jumped in, it sure felt sweet up there. That old out of the Revelations, right? You take this scroll and eat it. It'll taste sweet in your mouth, but it will sour in your stomach. That one right there is just like, okay. I've read a lot of different books that, it sure sounded sweet, but ultimately I find out that number one, a lot of these people that are writing these books and putting them out there, their motivation is not for, right? Their motivation is for profit.
Self-motivation.
It's not just sustainability, it's for profit. Right? That's that greed aspect, right? And we all have some level of greed, right? I want to be healthy. I'm going to be healthy, but that's not necessarily the best example, but you know what I mean. It comes in every way, shape, or form. That's that. Using all things in moderation. You can take practically everything you can think of, and put the double-edged sword on it, and find where it can be taken to either extreme, to an unhealthy state. So there we go back to that balance thing, right? And that's what's happening right now, is we're getting very lopsided, and eventually, I think with all systems, once they hit a certain extreme, they have a tendency to swing farther back or harder back to recenter. Sometimes it's a snap back, right?
Yeah. Well,
and that's reflected in our society right now. That principle of balance, the way I see it.
Yeah. We're definitely swinging right now.
Oh yeah. And well, actually, I think we're stretching tighter. I kind of feel like society's just stretching tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and we're getting close to the point where the thing that's pulling it back snaps, and it releases, right? So the release will come, and I think it'll be like a tidal wave, right? Here we go back to other times I think this has happened, but I think this is a reaction, the way it reacts to being out of balance too far. I don't think I kind of see it as being pulled to one side too far, so far that when it snaps back, it's going to be a pretty significant snap. And it's our challenge in the woo-woo world, in the awake and aware world, is to raise our vibrations high enough, our knowing and our understanding of life, and our insight into projected items or issues or events or energies and help to balance those effects when they do happen. So that's why it's so important that the wake-up thing that's going on now. It's so important that more and more people are climbing on board, because we're going to need that energy. We're going to need that positive vibe, that good vibration, that hell yeah, we're changing and we love it, and because we know that no matter what happens here, this is just shit, man.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go for it. I mean, we're going to make it happen. And I know that spirit is here. I know that spirit's here. And that spirit's here in every single one of us on this planet. It's just buried deeper in some. Right?
Right.
And you talk about uncovering lies, right, or uncovering truth. We're digging down deeper and deeper and deeper to that spirit in each and every one of us. And what happens is we have enough layers pulled off, and we're raised in an environment that doesn't throw a whole bunch more layers on you. When we come to the age of awareness, then we're much more apt to explore and expand. And so this process that's been going on for the last 40 years, really intensely, so maybe 50 years. About 50 years. The last 50 years in this wake-up that's been going on, the energy has been shifting, changing, and flowing. It's actually flowing from the more positive side now, more so than it was just kind of growing like a little bubble. Now there's actually a flow that I'm feeling of energy coming out of the united group that are truly, I mean, we're talking about the people in their houses, not the ones that are mixed up in all the drama and the trauma and the show business end of
People
this.
you've never heard of.
Right. But we're actually energetically flowing and growing because of that flow. So I really see positive things coming out of this year, and are really, I think, how's that saying go? You know, your wish is my command. You know what I mean? I mean, I think our future's wide open, and we have the ability to decide what it's going to look like. And the more of us that know that and realize that, the closer we are to having it manifest.
Yeah, well, like you said with the rubber band, and it's getting pulled tighter and tighter and tighter, and then pretty soon it's going to snap, and then it's just going to be a big whiplash back, right? I almost see it like those of us who are putting the time in and who are, you know, consciously making an effort to raise the vibration of the planet. It's going to be groups like that that's going to lessen that whiplash effect, I think.
Absolutely.
It seems like the best way for them to control humanity is to keep us on this teeter-totter, this brink of chaos, you know, brink of war, you know, or whatever you want to call it, but basically this brink of chaos, to keep us in this fear state and this high anticipation that something's going to happen. And it's like they feed off that. But for me, I have more faith in humanity. And if something, you know, if the whole political structure were just if everybody said no more, and we're not even, you know, we're going to do something completely different than that, you know, I don't see there being chaos. I've said this many times before. I don't see there being chaos in the street. I don't see it being the way that it's portrayed in movies and TV shows. I don't see it like that. I see people actually coming to help their neighbor, not going to rape and pillage their neighbor. I think that's a mindset that we're made to believe our neighbors are like. I think it's the way that the media has designed us to not trust people. You know, not trust the guy who lives down the street, that if the government collapses tomorrow, that he's not going to come down and rob my refrigerator.
Not that, depending on the severity of the event, okay, I think in the big cities, there may be some issues.
Yeah.
If I was in a big city and something big happened, I'd get the hell out of there.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'd be like, I'm not going to stay in the city, you know. It depends.
But
If you're suburbia, you might just be fine.
Yeah.
You know, but downtown may be the place where roamers are. You know.
Well, why would somebody stay in an environment that they couldn't sustain? You know, why would somebody choose to stay in a concrete jungle where food doesn't grow, where they can't, you know, if they eat meat, if they can't.
Years and years and years of scavenging there, man. All the food stores people keep in their closets, their pantries, all those apartment complexes that were full of people. You know how much? There's a lot of scavenging can go on there.
Oh yeah, but they would have to choose to live in that lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
well, maybe that's all they knew.
Yeah.
Maybe they grew up in the city, the jungle, the concrete jungle. You know. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Right? We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know that. You know, I honestly don't know that we'll come to the Mad Max world, right? I definitely don't see, you know, civilization crumbling, and I think the transition. I don't know. It feels like a mixture. Every time I've thought about that, you know, some people say, oh, it's going to be, you know, it'll be as smooth and go through severe chaos. I think most people are saying the chaos thing, right?
Yeah.
Going to go through a lot of chaos, and there's a full spectrum of severity of that through that.
Yeah,
right?
you know, and by no means do I think it's just going to be a transition from the type of lifestyle that we live now to a different lifestyle is going to be.
Think about it this way: we're in the transition now.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be some bumps in the road. It's not going to be perfect.
Look at what's going on out there right now. How much it's increased in the last year. The chaos on the planet, or here in the U.S. anyways. I mean, I'm assuming it's planet-wide, but you know, each country has their own media service, so. I don't know what you're feeding your people, you know.
Oh, and we don't know what we're being fed either.
True. I think we've got. Well, if you're awake and aware, you're pretty savvy to what is BS that comes out in the news services, and you're probably not one that has the evening news on every night. Playing in the background while you're eating dinner, right? Just for you'd leave the TV on for background noise, right?
Yeah.
And that's like subliminal messaging and programming all the way. And you hear the housewives that do nothing but watch the soap operas all day long. I wonder if they have drama in their life now. Right?
Yep. That's what you're attracting in.
I wonder how many of those housewives create the drama in their lives from. And I wonder somebody should give me a grant to do a study. I want to do a study between women that are housewives, stay-at-home housewives, mothers that watch soap operas all day long, compared to living-home mothers that don't watch soap operas or don't watch TV all day long. And how much drama they have in their lives, you know, how many friends they have that are, you know, cheating on their husbands, and you know what I mean, like the soap opera stuff, right? How much of that stuff is created in their lives, and they watch soap operas all day long. And then I would not be surprised if the women that don't watch soap operas all day long have much less drama in their lives like that. You know, they hang around with people who cheat on their husbands, and the doctor, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean the soap opera dramas.
I bet that would be.
So I think I could probably do that study. If any of you government agencies out there are listening, I could probably do that study for a cool million. So I'd have the results back in about 30 days, and I would demand payment on receipt, please.
Yeah.
But no,
but you know,
I've heard of grants going to stupider things.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, I was just going to say that in this society, it might be hard pressed to find a stay-at-home housewife now. just because of our unemployment situation and our
true.
rates of
True.
our.
They're still out there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still out there. Well, we could even go to the welfare moms. I don't know. There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
Right? And nothing against the welfare system. I was actually on welfare for 6 months myself. I found myself in a situation where I had a messed up arm and couldn't work, and
still need to eat.
Yeah, I had to eat, pay the rent. So I mean, that's what that system's there for, is to help people get back on their feet. You know, it's not a system that's supposed to be something that just sustains them for their whole lives. Which there are generational welfare families.
Yeah.
You know,
well, yeah, I mean that's another double-edged sword. You know, when you look at
right,
people that feed off welfare.
There's uses for it, and there's abuses for it.
Yeah, and then what I was going to say with you can pretty much pimp the welfare system for $30,000-$40,000 a year if you play it right.
Yeah.
You know, or you can go get a job and you can make $20,000 a year.
Right.
And you have to work full time. You know, I mean, there's something wrong, and just in that situation, if society's set up that way, there's something wrong with our economic structure. You know, how can these people make more money on welfare than they can make at a job?
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So of course you have people take advantage.
Okay, then now we're back to who do you think will fix that? Will Hillary fix that, or will Trump fix that?
I think they'll both fix it.
So I love that all the controversy that's going on over those comments that they recorded while he was not, behind the scenes, you know.
Oh yeah.
It was sneaky recording, right? And this whole thing is sneaky all the way around. Somebody dug up dirt. It intentionally digging up dirt. He made some comments which if you're a guy, have probably every one of you made comments like this. Now don't tell me you haven't, right? Come on. The guy's locker room, I was in the locker room, all right? I've been there. I know everybody does it. Somewhere in their lives, they've made the comments in the bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, you see that one that just walked in? You know, this is guy talk, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's done it. It's not that something that we do necessarily all the time, or we do ever anymore.
Yeah.
But
at certain points in your life.
Yeah, at certain points in your life, it happens. Granted, I think Trump may be at that certain point in his life a long time, but
yeah.
But he's lived the playboy life. The billionaire real estate mogul playboy.
Yeah.
Right? So,
he's still in that mindset.
Think about it, guys. If you were the billionaire, real estate mogul, what would you do?
Yeah.
Right? I can't blame the guy. He's enjoyed the hell out of his money.
I bet he has.
So, anyways, if it appears that the only choices we have are Trump and Hillary, and I'm not really a supporter of either of them, because I both know neither of them are really what I think, anyways, is the right character to lead this free world.
Mm-hmm.
And in the United States, granted, we're becoming less and less so anymore, are the leaders of the free world. We definitely are. So the person who helps or has the most influence of guiding this country and this society really needs some characteristics that are definitely not present in either one of them. Their track record definitely doesn't read though. How about Dalai Lama? I'd vote the Dalai Lama president. He's somebody that everybody knows. There's some good people that I know that I think would do a fantastic job in that position.
Yeah. But once again, it's not up to us to decide. You know, they say it's
oh,
up
they
to
say
us.
it is.
They say
right?
it is, but I just don't see. I don't see the American people picking either one of those. You know, I mean, even in the preliminaries, you know, and this whole Bernie Sanders thing that happened. You know, I just don't see
right,
it. You know, people. I see. You know, the large majority of people said no, I don't want Hillary, and then sure as shit, she's a candidate. How did that happen?
How did that happen?
You know, what's really going on here?
Yeah, there were agreements made, and you know, there are bargains made that have to be kept, or people just end up suiciding themselves.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're dealing with the Clintons. You know, there's awful lot of the people that they've known have suicided themselves. You know, I mean, we're
exactly.
a lot of people.
Record.
I mean, we're talking 40, 50. In since the Arkansas days for Bill, easily 40 to 50 people that have suicided themselves that have had close ties to the Clintons.
Yeah.
What the fuck's up with that?
Yeah, and why do they want to be on center stage with that kind of track record?
Oh,
you
because
know, they think that they're unstoppable.
Well, they are. Look what they've been able to do.
Well, yeah.
I mean, look, I was stationed in Arkansas in the early '80s, and that's when Bill Clinton was governor there. I remember all the crap that was going on down during that time about MENA, about the drugs, the cocaine. It was pretty apparent that Bill had something to do with it. Yeah, I don't know, and that whole thing never has surfaced in their political careers. Well, I mean, it surfaced on the fringes. A lot of people have brought it up. That's how I know about it.
Yeah,
but it's never been really addressed by the major media, right? By the let's bring this really out on the table. And even the dirt that does get brought out on the table, it's all of a sudden never spoke of again. And we as a society have a very short memory.
Yeah.
I mean, if we, and we've been programmed to be that way. We really have been programmed to be that way. Move on to the next distraction. Move on to the next distraction. Move on to the next one.
Well, think about this one example, right? Back when they made movies, you know, back in the 50s and the 40s and 30s, back when they made movies, right? They would have long scenes. The movie would be, you know, be a bunch. It'd still be a lot of different scenes, but the scenes would be long scenes, and there wouldn't be too many camera cuts. Now, if you watch a TV show or a movie today, it is camera cut after camera cut after. You're hard pressed to get a 5-second long scene.
It'd be 13 minutes of TV, 2 minutes of commercial at the quarter hours, and then at the 30 and the top of the hour, it'd be like 4 minutes of 4 or 5 minutes of commercials.
Yeah.
And then you have this 10 to 12 minute segment, you know.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when you're looking at that segment, right? When you're watching a movie, there's scenes. They cut camera angles, right? So one person will be talking and they'll get a couple words out. Then they'll cut the camera angle to the next person, cut the camera angle to the street, cut it back to this person, and they'll cut them, you know, within a 2-minute scene, you'll have 100 camera cuts in different angles, and it's different flashes, and it's like to me how I see it's being done is it's lessening our attention span. We need to have that camera cut. We need to have that new angle. We need to have that new something. It's almost like they're shortening our attention span.
That or training us to, or maybe that's a ploy to keep you interested. Something always different, something changing, another vision, another scene.
But like you said, if you look at the old movies, you know,
right,
old time movies were great movies, right, you know. But there wasn't these camera cuts like this now.
The studio owned 3 cameras, and they had 4 shows going on at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I mean. I mean, it wasn't like everything digital now that they have, you know, 50 cameras on a scene.
Yeah.
And that only cost them, you know, $50,000. You know,
Yeah.
versus back in the day, it would have been $50,000 a camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I just see it as a way of keeping us to where we have to have more stimulus. We need more and more stimulus. You give them a little bit and give them a little bit more, a little bit more, and now.
How much of that is intentional though, and how much of that is just people that are following a vibration? Or I mean, you know, you got that creative energy. When are they reflecting what is being put out there energetically? You know, are they drawing down from the energy of society as a whole and being the reflection of, since they're working in those media areas that are putting out the main projection, is what we're getting in the media kind of a reflection of the collective consciousness? I mean, especially when it comes into like movies, right? The theme of the movies seem to be have a huge reflection on our state of mind. The metaphors that are coming out of so many shows now, I see them as, I definitely have seen the reflection of the collective consciousness being projected in our modern media, and in very deep ways sometimes. I think a lot of that is not necessarily intentional. I think it's just they're receivers of the collective energetic grid.
Yeah.
Right. Their muse is tapped in.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it. You know, and not saying that it was done intentional, or it could have been. Don't
get me wrong. I think that there is definitely intentional work that happens.
But that's where it comes into, is because, you know, people say, well, you know, if we do this and this and this, we can keep them entertained, we can draw them in, and they'll come see the next movie we make.
There is a very, very meticulously calculated aspect to a lot of shows out there. A lot of them, and I'm pointing towards movies primarily. There is a lot of creative stuff out there. That's not, the intention behind it is not malicious, okay? But there is also a definite and distinct element out there that is very manipulative and very consciously being manipulated.
Yeah.
Disney. I mean, there are some very, very blatant examples of very blatant subliminal messaging, and some of that messaging is pretty freaking dark. I mean, I don't know if it was a pornography industry or if it was just the way they wanted to steer the collective consciousness. At one point, there were penises and vaginas and the word sex and the word orgy and the word orgasm, and you think of any word that had any sexual connotation at all was just everywhere. They were putting this shit in, and very consciously so. You know, so that's one of the more. They've gotten much more subtle since the digital age came along. They've been able to layer. So they've been able to layer on tones that are not audible to the human ear. They've been able to layer digitally. And don't think you guys don't pick up digital messages, digital energy. I mean, if you do any research into the holographic fabric of life.
Real quick on that, you think about the military, and they changed their camouflage from, you know, the forest camouflage to the digital print. You know, why? And the first time I seen it, I was like, you know, these are a bunch of boxes. I mean, you would notice that. You would think that in flowing nature, you would notice a bunch of digital boxes. You know, that would stick out. And my buddy, he was in the Corps, and he had his cover with me. He threw his hat in the bushes. He says, "You see it in there?" Or no, I had turned around and he threw it in the bushes, and I heard where it landed at, and he told me to turn around and look. He said, "You see it there?" Sure as shit, I didn't see it there. And I didn't at that time I didn't put anything together. And then you start thinking, well, if this is a digital based reality that we're in, of course the best camouflage would be a digital camouflage.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of right there in our face. You know, they changed the military uniforms all to digital print.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, oh geez, don't get into the reality conversation, you know. But
yeah, what you're saying with the media and being able
it's
to
a
layer
bizarre
things
thing,
in there,
dude.
with digital too. I mean, they can splice in a scene. You know, back 30 years ago, they had to actually splice in and be a certain, you know, amount of time that you could see that flash on the screen, or you could, you know, not even make something out, but you could see a flash on the screen.
Digitally remastered.
But now you don't even see the flash on the screen. It's so quick.
Yeah.
You know, it's so minute of a time.
Or it's on another layer.
Yeah.
Inaudible, invisible energy layer that's underneath all the rest of the digital noise. I mean, it's so easy to embed shit in digital format. I mean, just messing around with your own computer. I think they even have this in the YouTube editor, where you can put things behind other things.
Huh.
Right? You just click a button and it goes behind the next layer. Click another button and it goes behind the next layer. Well, just put an image behind a blank wall. You know, put an image and then put it behind that other digital wall. Do you think the image you put behind there is there if you move that wall? Think about this now. Now, it may not be stored on the computer in any way, shape, or form if it's covered up. It may just disappear from the data. But your mind, somebody knows it's there. If somebody knows it's there, then there's energy coming out of there that is there. All right? So it's so easy to mask stuff in digital form. You just click behind, click behind, click behind. Buy my book. Buy this movie. Spend. Obey.
Yeah. Obey.
Right.
We don't have fancy sunglasses.
Chaos. Chaos. I mean, there's all sorts of messages that are. Oh, there's been some pretty obvious messages that have been put out there. Now, some of them I think come from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the spiritual reality is a very real thing. I mean, there are entities. There are very conscious and aware entities, very conscious and aware of what's going on here, and a lot of people tap into those. You know, those that I think herein lies one of the biggest problems on the planet right now, is that everybody who has a sweet connection buys it, hook, line, and sinker, and all that connection has to do is stay sweet. Let's keep pouring the syrup on. We'll pour the syrup on, and then we're going to give them 99% truth, but it's all going to be pretty benign stuff, right? It's stuff that's already out there. We're just saying the same truth that we've already said. This is what we've deemed okay for people to hear, right? And we don't want them to go too deep with the truth. Or if we want to steer it a certain direction, let's send some really wild shit out there. Okay? Yeah. Let's talk about we got 10 motherships out here that are on. You know. Let's get really crazy, right? But I think that is something people don't even consider when they get this sweet connection. You know, and they say the proof is in the pudding. But when these things are 30 years patience to pull off one job, right? They what do they call a Manchurian candidate? You can look at it that way, where this thing all of a sudden is a sleeper, and all of a sudden it's going to give you that bad piece. That is, it's part of the big scene to play. That's why I think it is so important. One of the reasons why I think it's so important for us to get that reaction aspect out of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, the physical need to jerk away when danger's there, right? That's got to stay, right? Because we're living in a physical environment. But what I'm talking about is our decisions, our choices on how we navigate the world, not to react to it without careful prior thought, to act to it, to intentionally move
Mm-hmm.
not to just randomly bounce off of all the obstacles in the world, but to intentionally move through the world. If we set our intention to bringing about paradise on planet Earth, I mean, that's my ultimate goal. I want this to be paradise. I want it to be like, we know what we can do. Mm-hmm. We know there's free energy out there. That solves all the pollution problems. Right there. Done.
Next.
Next. Yeah. Okay, food. Oh, shit. Well, we got, look at all these automated farms we got. We're going to set these things up and just grow just what we need, right?
Yeah.
Instead of so much waste here in the U.S. I mean, food is just, it's ridiculous how much food this country wastes. It's just, it's boggling.
There should be no starving people.
We can manage this stuff. We have the ability. We have the ability to manage all of this stuff in a very graceful and beautiful way, in a way that fills people's needs to contribute, because I think that's a definite need.
Yeah.
We are social creatures. We have to interact with each other, or that's a big part of our natural essence that's missing. Because we are connected. We are one already. We are our brothers and sisters, and we're family.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's a very natural need that we all have. I think it can be such a graceful shift if we get enough people projecting that energy.
Sure.
And people who are intentionally moving and not reacting. You know, everything that I've ever received from a divine source, I've had some interesting communications and experiences in my life. Every time I have, I question the shit out of it. I am hyper skeptical to messages coming through it. I always have. I mean, there's another level of communion with the energies, the communion with those entities, that an open love, an open loving that's there also. But the information that I receive and my interpretation of it, I think that's one of the more important things, is my personal surety of the interpretation of the information that came through. You know, am I sure, do I feel that it's right, what I got out of that information? And then I can make a what I would hope would be the wise decision on how to react to it or act to it or use it.
Yeah. You know, I think that when that kind of information does come in, it's almost an instant knowing, you know, whether it's good information or whether it's, you know, something you need to think about a little bit differently. You know, when we get, for me, it's almost, it's a monitoring of the thoughts, you know, and it's not so much, it's hard to say, you know, are these my thoughts or are these thoughts that are coming in from someplace else?
I think that's the distinction for me too, is knowing whether or not, or feeling whether or not this is something I already knew, and that's what I think the majority of what I have always received has been something I already knew on some level.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some things that, you know, that aren't not out there in the world. You know, I think everything's out there if you look for it. All the answers are out there if you look for it. But it had to do more with the real knowing aspect, I guess. I lost that track. Oh, shit. Oh man, my head gets rolling on this stuff sometimes, and it just kind of flows from one into another, and then here we are. You know, what did we start talking about on this?
Yeah.
You know, what the fuck,
Wake
people?
up.
Wake up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that you know, that the majority of our audience that, you know, has been listening to us already knows these things, and it's more for the, you know, the first time, you know, person who's seen, the 100th Monkey Radio on Google and and clicked on it to see what it was all about. I think that our listeners are pretty well on this same track of, kind of understanding what we're saying and where we're coming from.
Well, sometimes, I know I've needed to hear things that I already knew.
Oh yeah.
So many times in my life, I just needed to hear it again to remind myself, hey, what the hell, Tom? You slipped off track. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, yeah, shit, I knew that. Oh, I forgot that. That's why this isn't working. The answers come to us, and we get the reminders that we need, and it's a huge difference from the 90% or the 70%, whatever that number is now, right? It's a huge difference when you put your feet on the path and started really walking in awareness. The way things unfold for you. You're not the victim nowhere near as much. Circumstances don't happen to create you as the victim nowhere near as much. And when they do, you have a readily available answer.
Yeah.
From a wise place that's going to resolve the turmoil, smooth the road. Have the answer readily available because it's always there. Because you have that surety of life that no matter what happens here, it's all small stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just what a crazy ass place.
Yeah, and we see when we're on this path. There is things that get thrown into us, stumbling blocks,
right?
And
a lot of them are necessary learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm. To keep to put us back in check. You start getting on this spiritual high, and all of a sudden something happens, and it's like, how could this happen to me? I'm on this spiritual high, and then this whole completely dense third dimensional thing happens to you, and you're right back to your primal instinctual motives, or actings, and you got to stop and check yourself and say, wait a minute, is that a reaction? Yes, because it's definitely not a response.
That was an opportunity for you to recognize that you're still not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not ready to just completely let it go.
Yeah. Well,
right?
There's.
I'm not either. I mean, we all have. We all have our buttons.
Yeah. Well,
right?
there's this thing that I think you were talking about before too, where you can know of something, but knowing of something is different than actually knowing it.
Exactly.
A lot of these topics we talk about, we know of them. We're actively trying to, or I should say, but we're actively trying to know it. It's easy to know of it. We can get we can wrap our intellectual minds around these concepts and know of them.
Huge difference between knowing something and knowing something.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't have come off very good in print at all. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe if I capitalized the whole word of knowing the second time, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to put the energy into it when you're typing it
out. Exactly. No, I mean, it's different. It's belief and truth. Difference between belief and truth.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have a lot of beliefs, and if you don't have a direct physical experience with something, you can never know it 100%.
Yeah.
Even if you say you have 100% ultimate faith in something, until it's there in front of you, you can't have it. It's not a reality yet. So if it's not a reality yet, there's always an opportunity for it not to appear. I mean, even the train that's there every morning at 9:22, right, on the dot. It's on a computer system. It's on a computer schedule. 9:22 every morning it's there. That's not a surety. I mean, train wrecks happen all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what the hell? Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
So I think that's what we're actively seeking is to know it. Not to know of it, but to know it.
Absolutely. That way, that's what builds who we are. Our beliefs really don't do it, because I don't think our beliefs. I mean, they are the question leading to the answer. Our beliefs are.
Well, to know you must believe.
Right. They are the questions leading to our answer.
Mm-hmm.
But the answer is what changes who you are. And I'm not saying that the question doesn't also change who you are, because that does also. But there's a difference between it being a knowing and a being also. Mm-hmm. Okay, we talked about between belief and knowing, and then now there's another level, the knowing and being. But those two, the knowing and being, actually are really tightly connected. The knowing happens, and then the being manifests. Mm-hmm. All right, it changes the way you are without having to consciously think about it or look at it. It just becomes part of who you are. That's what knowing does. It creates the being. So, mm-hmm. I don't want to go. I'll end up way off track if I go into this one. It's pretty deep. We'll leave that for another show. Yeah, the difference between the levels of knowing.
Well,
what an interesting.
We just talked to somebody, God, just not too long ago, but they talked about the different stages in life and stages of development and the different ages. And I think he said
Richard Barrett,
yeah. And he said, when you get to 60, that's when you come into soul consciousness.
Right.
And so I asked him, well, how do you fast track that? Well, you really can't fast track that, because it's based on your experience, and how much experience you have allows you to reflect on what you're going through now to bring you to the next level, it seems like. So you could want these different things to happen sooner in your life, and if they did, how would you recognize it if you didn't have the experience to base it off of?
Right. Well, he did acknowledge that there are exceptions to the rule.
Well, yeah.
And if you look at it on a large scale, and you take the 1%, let's say that's the 1%, or we're maybe nearing the 1% as far as really conscious and aware people on the planet. It might be higher than that. I don't know. I still kind of feel like it's not a very gigantic number yet. But if you take those and compare them to the rest of humanity, that's your ratio right there, right? 1 in 100. That is the exception to the rule. So we're trying to increase that number. That 1% is trying to increase that number. So they're doing things like they're having retreats, and they're holding meditations, and they're
networking on Facebook.
They're networking on Facebook, right? I mean, they're reaching out. They're interacting with the conscious community. They're writing books. They're making videos. They're having radio shows. Mm-hmm. Just there's a lot of different levels of this that's going on right now that is some really good shit. Even if there's a lot of it that is misguided on some level. I've always said that even the evilest, most maliciously intended person that puts something out there into the woo-woo community, somebody out there needed that. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that. Each of us are guiding our steps, especially if we've asked the question, right? The who am I question, right? What am I question? If you've asked those questions and you've truly been trying to seek those answers through your lifetime, things manifest for you.
Yeah.
There is a very conscious and aware path that's put in front of us to teach us and show us what we need to know, because we're now ready to see. I mean, most of our lives, when almost not for everybody, granted, there are exceptions to the rule, but most people, they're raised in this third-dimensional culture without any spirituality, without any open, aware conversations in the family, mm-hmm. Without the exposure to anything but the 5 o'clock news, right?
Yeah.
So it's our job, or our contribution to put things out there, to energetically put things out there. I mean, that's number one, because we're pushing this up into that collective consciousness, and it's coming in through those reflections. So that's why it's important for us to. I'm not saying recruit, but that's the result of us raising our vibrations, is that more people see it, and more people ask the question. What the hell is that light over there? What's that little thing flickering over there? I see a light. I live in this really dark place, but I see a light flickering over there. What the hell is that? I don't want to get too close to it right now, but that's pretty cool. You know what? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, we're putting it out there, and people are picking it up, and it's changing the face of the planet. And I think that you know, if you want to look at this on the good and bad side, right? The good side's starting to raise their voice, and they're starting to be heard, and the bad side are starting to get a little bit nervous. So now they're lashing back, they're thrashing out, they're pointing fingers, right? They're reacting harshly, you know. So we have an ugly society, ugly world. They only pick up the garbage once a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that reflection of the lashing out, and those elements still control the mass media, so it's reflected there. But we're being heard by more and more people, and the more we're heard, the louder the voice. The more we're heard, the louder the voice. The louder the voice. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? All you out there know what I mean too. I mean, you've seen. It's amazing to watch somebody who is, especially somebody who is one of those energetic powerhouses, right? Watch one of them come into a room and change the whole attitude of the room. I know you guys have seen it. Someone walk into a room and just all of a sudden it's like, let's say they're in a real pissy mood. They come walking into a room, all of a sudden it's all hush hush in the room.
Yeah.
Right? Have you not seen it? Right?
That's a perfect example.
So I mean, we spread our energy. We keep it high, keep it up, keep positive.
Yep.
And it's reflected.
Yeah.
Despite the ones that are trying to hold you down.
Yeah. Hiccups come.
We gotta do it, or we're gonna stay here. Right? You guys want to stay here? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to stay in this situation that the planet's in right now? Is that what you want? Are you comfortable? Is this what you call comfort? I mean, does not, you know, what you have to deal with to live on this planet. We'll call it the paperwork, and I'm talking I'm talking money too.
Yeah.
Right? What you have to do to get money, what you have to do to spend your money. Yeah, you know what? I mean, is that like really? Come on. We've got better answers.
Yeah.
Right? We are our brother's keepers. We are all so intimately connected. Think about it. We're all from planet Earth, right?
Yeah.
Right?
We all live here.
All right. What's your body made out of?
Planet Earth.
Your planet Earth, right? Tell me how more fundamentally connected can you be? So come on, folks. Come on. Wake up. All right, guys. You've been listening to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and LFE. I think we had a good conversation with you guys out there, and yeah, keep on tuning in. Look forward to our next show. Trying to get a couple of people on right now that a few people have requested, so we'll see how that pans out. Hopefully I'll get a response here. Namaste, my friends. Condemnation without investigation. I was skipping, sorry. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change.
Namaste, my friend. All right, well, welcome to the 100th Monthly Radio with Tom and LFE. We're recording this on 10/10/16, about 3:30 in the afternoon here in Washington, and in need of a drink, which I should have done before I started the recording, be a professional and be ready to talk.
Who wants to be a
all
professional?
That kind of stuff, but well, you guys know we definitely have never claimed to be professional. We're just sharing our piece. And my piece this week, this era in time, this month of this year is, come on, people, wake the fuck up. Come on. I mean, I this whole political scene, that this crap that's going on in this circus is really, this is a direct reflection of the populace, right? At some point, some level, we are petty, we're sexist, we're vindictive, we're secretive. Oh my God, are we secretive? We are victims. We point our fingers. You did this. No, you did this. You're a blank. He's a blank. Back and forth. It's just, let's fling the mud. And are these two people that we see up there what we as a society want as the leaders of the free world? Are we that gullible that we're going to stand here and we're going to watch this blatant, in your face, this is not a honest game.
Yeah.
Can you just who can still look at our political scene, our political structure, and not see how deeply corrupt, corrupt, the best word. You've heard it out there a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, I like what you just opened up with, though, was that, is that they're reflecting what society is. I've heard people say, many times the faults that we see in others, we only see them because they're within ourselves, right? So, this is, nationwide, and we're seeing how these people are acting. We're seeing all the accusations. We're seeing all this stuff, but yet, all those things reside in each one of us, and I think like you said, it is a reflection of.
No, it isn't to a certain. Now, it is to the extent that they want us to believe that that's what it is. There's another level to this. There's another level above this stuff that, but beyond the surface, that is kind of directing it, right? There is definitely some. We've all witnessed the miraculous unfoldment of events, okay, and how that comes about in our own lives. And that same thing happens on a societal level. And if you can steer that public opinion, that energy that is being projected, if you can steer it, mass media, corporate media, the government, but in any way, shape, or form, then you can direct that energetic flow, and that's what we get in the world. That's what we get as a society. We've got some pretty smart cookies up there, and there's a small group of them that are actually pulling the big strings. And they don't mess around with the minutia, but they pull some pretty big strings, and this is the direction we want everybody to go in. And I am becoming more and more convinced that the primary directive out there is don't let them know more than blank, right? They put a ceiling on what we can know and what we can understand here I mean, there's a lot of sugar up there. If you, I mean, and the messages that are coming through, there's almost every single thing that comes through is dripping with syrup.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just that in itself has to make me go, well, you know.
Well, you see a lot of parallels in the whole salvationism. You know, the old message of salvationism, you know, in the New Testament, and then the messages that are coming out now that you hear a lot about with, you know, just wait for this date and just wait for this date, and, you know, big waves of energy and this, you know, just wait for this date, you know. But it seems to me just another way of
postponing it.
Yes.
Postponing it.
Salvationism, you know, wait for a savior. Don't be your own savior. You have to wait for this certain event to happen for you to save yourself. You know, it's just repackaging of old ideas.
Right. There is some really interesting energetic direction that is happening on this planet. I mean, I'm talking about focused energies to create a certain attitude, to create a certain fear. I mean, look at what they've done with the whole race card here this year. I mean, they've totally blown the shit way out of proportion.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the media, what do they call them, the crisis actors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of oh my God, there's a ton of stuff that has been crisis actored up. So it's been a show presented on a stage in a real life scene, in a real life set.
Yep.
And people eat it up. They just repetition, right? It's that repetition thing.
Yeah, you know, and we'll see people that, well, I've seen people that are, you know, just beginning to wake up, or, you know, somewhat on the path to waking up, and some of these things will happen. These, you know, false flag events or whatever you want to call them, they'll happen. But they've absorbed all this other knowledge about, you know, corrupt systems and, you know, personal sovereignty, things like that. And one of these false flags will happen, and the first thing they turn to is the CNN story, or the Fox News story, and say, "Oh, look at this! Look at this! You know, these people are doing this to us." And it's like, wait a minute. You know, we just got done talking about something, you know, 30 minutes ago, and then this happens, and you're pulling it off CNN, and you're reading it like it's fact, when we know that CNN is a bunch of liars. So why are you reading it as fact? Now, you know, it's in these moments of chaos and these moments of trauma that it seems to be that a lot of people, you know, stick to what they know. You know, they've been watching CNN and Fox News their whole life, so in instances of high chaos, they go right back to it.
Yeah.
Learned behavior, I guess.
You know, and I don't necessarily, well, I know that a lot of these events are not completely staged. No, right, a lot of them are. There are a lot of people getting hurt out there too, and they're victims of. I mean, if you guys don't think that our government would stoop to such lows as to murder their own citizens, just do a little bit of research. Look up Project Northwoods. That's one that is in black and white, and it's undeniable. It's been admitted completely 100% back in the Kennedy era. Johnson, it was McNamara was the one that actually would not sign this, and so it did not actually was not employed or deployed, and it had to do with killing people down in having a fake plane wreck, and I can't remember all the stuff, but there was actually talked about killing people in terrorist acts. You know, they were trying to incite resistance against Cuba. It was the Cubans in here being terrorists, right?
Yeah.
So they've been playing this card for a long time, and I mean, almost every, I dare say probably every theater of war that we're in right now, and don't get me wrong, I mean, don't doubt it, we are at war with the world. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people we're killing. I mean, we don't hear the numbers over here.
No.
We do not hear the numbers here in the U.S. of who and how many civilians are being killed. And that's the lion's share of people who are dying are civilians.
Yeah. And not only by, weapons, but by starvation.
Oh, God, yes. We've disrupted that so many parts of the world. Colombia is, I just saw here a couple of weeks ago, Colombia, they're finally really close. They may have already signed it, and I just haven't caught that news yet. But they were right on this week. We're going to be signing, or last week, excuse me, a peace treaty between the Colombian government and the whatever the hell they're called, the resistance down there.
Okay.
What the hell's it?
I don't know.
I know them. Anyways, it'll come to me later. But I mean, that's remarkable. I mean, and we are the ones that was our CIA advisors were the ones that kicked that whole thing up.
Yeah.
Anyways. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with all that being said, we go back to what's happening right now, and we go back to, like this rigged election and this whole
I just can't believe
race baiting and everything else.
That even if on what is the more surface levels of awareness here, the general population, the 90%, right, that do nothing but watch 5 o'clock news and they're eating all this shit up. I don't think it's quite 90% anymore. Actually, I think that has been shifting throughout the years.
Yeah.
I think maybe we're still getting down into the 70% range.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people talking just based from this election. There's a lot of people talking that how can this possibly be? How can these be our two choices? People that
are the best people that we can present as leaders, the best people who we think will honestly lead the country.
Yeah.
In a good way for all of us.
And I've heard plenty of quote unquote red-blooded Americans say this, that and these are people that live on Fox News, and they say and they're saying these kind of things. How could these be the two best choices? And they're strict Republican or strict Democrat, and they're still having these thoughts. So this is in some way it is awakening people to just how fucked our system is.
Yeah. The intent, the original purpose of our government was to bring us together as a society. And I think it hit that mark early on, but it could not maintain it because power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And in one sense, you can't blame them, right? Think about yourself, guys. Everybody out there, think about who you are, who you've been, the things you've done. Have you always walked straight upright and straightforward? Never in your life been deceptive or manipulative or done something that someone else may call evil? Right?
Yeah.
We've all had it. We've all done our things. We've all cross those lines that we may not now ever cross again, and be something we learned that is, hey, that's not really who I want to be, number one, and then so it's not what I want to be, so the result of that is that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So granted, we all learn and grow, but do we not have compassion? Why does it have to be so much finger pointing? Why does somebody always have to be at fault? I mean, we are constantly beating each other up with "you did, you did, I'm the victim here, I'm the victim." That's what they're really saying. I'm the victim here. I'm the victim here. All right. Or why do people have to berate others or try to get someone else in trouble just to make themselves feel better or feel bigger? Or impress somebody? How do you impress somebody for doing wrong to someone else? Oh, I stepped on that guy's back. Oh man, that's fucking tough, man. What I don't understand. And that's one I don't know that I've never had that propensity to do. I have done it before. I've stepped on other people to get to certain places or things I wanted in my life. I think that's part of growing up and learning. You know, that was a yesterday, I think. No, no. But you know what I mean. I mean, we've all been there and we've all done that, and we eventually learn. But you know, how do we break that cycle? I mean, because we every generation to one level or another would. Depending on what path you take in life, if you're in that 90%, this gets confusing and convoluted, and oh my God.
Yeah, it's almost like it's something that, well, it's a learned behavior. It's another one of those learned behaviors. You know, and our parents learned it, no fault to theirs, and their parents learned it, no fault to them either. You know,
it's insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bottom line, it's insecurity. We're not secure in who we are. So to make ourselves better or feel like we are who we are for whatever reason, or get that energy rush. I think people, and we've bred through some really bad attitudes here. We've bred some pretty evil people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people that are heartless. You know, they don't really care, and that's they're a product of their environment. It's out there, and those are the ones that there's so much anger in for being brought into this world, in this society, as fucked up as it is. Yeah, I mean, what the hell? I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a handful of people, you know, and there's also the other handful of people that were. You know, we're taught this, intentionally taught to be like this.
Right, true.
You know, and it seems like
carry on the family line, the family tradition.
Yeah, those are the
bloodline.
The bloodline, the elite of today's society. You know, our politicians and our movie stars, our Hollywood actors and shit like that. You know, it seems to be, you know, I mean, that little girl researched this shit how many years ago? And she found all these links, and there's just this little girl.
It's a very large family tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems to be, and now we hear about, you know, DNA cleanup teams going behind people and making sure they don't leave any DNA, because, you know, people are starting to get hip to this. People are starting to ask questions. How come there's so many of this bloodline that is the ruling class? How can that be? You know, that can't be just coincidence.
Yeah, no way.
You know?
No way.
So.
No, there's some snakes in the woodpile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think that, but those are like really impressive humans.
Well, you know.
You know, I mean, in one way or another, they had to get there from. I mean, that separation was pretty distinct, I think, in the earlier years.
Well, it's almost like sometime back in their bloodline, they had a choice between either doing the light magic or doing the dark magic. And in that time, they you know, some people chose the light magic and some people chose the dark magic, and they just went. It's almost that lineage that it seems to be coming down. Is that dark lineage?
And I wonder if, you know, we've heard about so many different eras that and civilizations that have risen and fallen on this planet, and completely wiped out to where history is wiped out, right? Yeah. How many times has that happened? And you know, here we are. And how did that happen? Was that because the balance was shifted to one side or the other? Right? Mm-hmm. I think if that balance shifts hard to either side, I think that it is unsustainable.
Yeah.
It has to rebalance, and so I don't know. Well, heaven is in perfect balance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could think about, you know, doing the light magic, right, and coming more in touch with yourself and more in tune with the earth, right, and. You know, a group of people decide, you know, well, we're so in tune with the earth and we can't leave a footprint on the earth, and we love her so much, you know, we just need to, you know, not be in these physical bodies anymore. And a group of 100 people could decide that for the fate of 1,000, you know.
Yeah.
And that could be for that group of 100, it could be complete light magic, complete loving, everything else. But for that 900 of the rest of the people, that's not light to them. They're not on that same thought form, on that same wave pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is natural. This conflict is natural. I think that it's for life to thrive, that in the balance, it's not a conflict, it's a cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how life grows, and that's how it grows. If it's not in cooperation, it's destroying each other.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no life in destruction, right? You're tearing down life, you're disassembling.
Yeah.
What life is assembling, you're disassembling.
Yeah. I think we as even as babies, we learn how to not cooperate with each other. This is your toy.
No.
Yeah.
No. 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 No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, how many times does a kid hear that when they're growing up, right? Especially in the very formative years, those toddler years, when you start really getting curious about the world around you and you want to touch everything, feel it, hold it, what is this, and you're constantly being told, no, don't touch that, don't explore new things, this is the formative years of your life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, think about this. I mean, you parents out there, think about that kind of thing. I mean, I was pretty aware when my daughter was born, just when her formative years, I was in that place of learning. I had already had my wake-up call when she was like 4, and I really become very aware of how I dealt with her. So there was some of that that's why I'm speaking it. I mean, I did it, the no's, but I think I caught it and rectified it way before it really turned her away from exploration. She's adventurous as shit, man. But
yeah, yeah. Well, being told no so much, like you said, no, don't touch that. And certain things, don't touch the fire. It's hot. But certain things, don't touch the, whatever, don't touch the remote, let's say, right?
Well, don't touch the is so much different than no.
Yeah.
When there's a conversation that can be had.
True.
A kid when they're young, if you explain things, they're going to grow. If you don't explain it, they're going to be angry.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, is that you're telling your child this, and then your child is going to interact with their peers, and how you talk to your child, and especially in those years, that's the only example they have to go by. So how they see you interact is how they're going to interact with their peers. So if you're in a situation to where, it's not the greatest situation to be in, and your kids are learning that, that's teaching them, how to go back again, how to not cooperate, how to not get along with each other, how to not
right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh man, so and then all of that you go. The next step up is right. How much of that is being directed from another realm? And especially if you're running some program, what does my train of thought? Damn it.